Bien, hacia allá. Miren lo que pasa. ¿Se ve lo que está pasando? Los pies están...
Buenos Aires is dealing with debt and its consequences. In one part of the city, they practice the steps first danced in Argentine brothels and immigrant districts more than a century ago, the tango. In another, they scream at, deface and kick the metal sheeting shielding bank windows.
The banks don't want to return us our money. They want to rob our money.
Argentine politics in Argentina are, most of them, 90%, all thieves.
Bashing banks that won't release their savings. And taking free lessons meant to bolster national pride in a dance their ancestors gave the world. Both are responses to this country's profound crisis. So too is a demand here to explain what went wrong, to make sense of how this most educated, resource-rich, European corner of Latin America could fail so completely. Buenos Aires is a sprawling city of 13 million, full of promise and pretensions. Its affluent facades say little about a brutal recent past and plenty about how Argentines see their capital, a London or Madrid more than a Lima or Mexico City. Sara Navarrete lived among Argentina's privileged.
Por ejemplo, un semipiso tenía la habitación de servicio, el baño de servicio, la cocina, un lavadero, la puerta de servicio, un pasillo que tenía más de 25 metros.
She trained as an accountant and dance teacher and had a wealthy grandfather.
Was he a millionaire?
Yes. Yes.
A millionaire?
Millonario. Pero seguimos derecho.
At 46, the money, career, home and marriage have all gone.
Acá derecho cruzamos la placita.
Sacked when her employer went broke, Sara, like 1 in 5 Argentines who want to work, is unemployed.
Acá se da misa.
She lives in Villa Retiro, an inner city slum.
Entonces, bueno, tuvimos que aprender a vivir con los códigos. Y acá trabajé de mucama, trabajé de limpieza, trabajé de lo que podía.
In the last quarter of a century, Argentina has lurched from a vicious military dictatorship, more than 20,000 people vanished, through 4-digit hyperinflation, to a new, widely praised free market economy, and now 4 unrelenting years of recession. The slump so rough, Latin America's recent economic star performer is unable to meet repayments on $150 billion of foreign debt, the biggest debt defaulter of all time.
Ordinary Argentines are very clear. There is no sense whatsoever. We don't owe, and we shouldn't pay.
Seattle-born economist Beverly Keane works with an Argentine human rights group.
What we are living today in Argentina are the results of the kinds of policies that have been put in place since the time of the dictatorship, and particularly since the early 90s. Structural adjustment policies, the kind of basic prescription that the IMF and the World Bank give to countries that are heavily indebted.
No major economic decision in this country was never made without first getting the green light from the IMF.
Another who blames the International Monetary Fund and its free market policies is author and political science professor Attilio Boron.
We have been the country which follow strictly all the recommendations issued by the major international financial institutions like the IMF and the World Bank. And everybody knows that those recommendations do not work. They do not work. And so this is the Argentine tragedy, is the tragedy of a very good pupil who followed all the rules of the teacher, but the teacher was dead wrong, and now we are paying the bill.
In the small hours of any Saturday morning these days, streets leading to the Plaza de Mayo channel thousands of middle-class, educated Argentines into one bubbling hub of frustration. They bang pots and drums and chant of a popular revolt, of seizing the streets and overthrowing at least the government, perhaps the system. And in the shadows nearby, poor, less educated Argentines sift through garbage. Not 2 or even 5,000, an estimated 50,000 live this way, night after night, in Buenos Aires alone. Salvaging paper for recycling and the $5 a night it can earn them,
Fiambre. Buen fiambre, lindo.
and finding their food.
No, hay que estar toda la noche buscando bolsas, caminando y tratar de conseguir todo lo mejor para poder armarlas.
Vanessa Aladdin is 17. She has mixed feelings about the nearby protests, applauds their motives, but they interrupt garbage hunting. She needs the money from paper and the food for her family.
Primero lo olfateamos bien, digamos, y después nos fijamos la fecha de vencimiento, porque tampoco le vamos a estar dando a los chicos cosas que no se pueden comer sabiendo que le puede hacer mal a los chicos. Primero y principal, tratamos de que si no tiene fecha de vencimiento, probarlo nosotros primero y después darle a los más chicos, porque vienen chiquitos también acá.
Could the economic wisdom of the 90s really have brought Argentina and its 36 million people to this? For those willing to make the 1,000-kilometre journey northwest of Buenos Aires and through the desolate mountains of La Rioja province, the champion of IMF policies in Argentina will talk. This is Menem country.
Señor Presidente, mucho gusto. Nice to meet you.
Home to the man twice elected president, the only president of 17 Argentina's had since the 50s who served a full term.
Everything's all right? It's wonderful.
And the president who faithfully implemented the IMF blueprint for a decade before losing office 3 years ago. At 71, Carlos Menem makes wine.
You will see how good is our wine.
What is your specialty grape?
Hay varias. Cabernet, Sauvignon.
Dresses in the gaucho outfit of the Argentine cowboy and enjoys the life of a newlywed.
Salud.
His bride, Cecilia Bolocco, starred at the opening of this Chilean festival in the week before our interview. Their marriage is the stuff Latin American tabloids are made of.
I'm an original, baby!
She's 37, a former Miss Universe turned journalist.
Me demoré mucho.
Sí.
And he's older than his father-in-law.
Pero en la vida, querido Tim, uno tiene la edad del ser que ama. Vale decir que yo tengo la edad de Cecilia.
On his country's turmoil,
Bueno, es dramática. De tan profunda es dramática.
Desgraciadamente veo la gente muy angustiada, veo mucho dolor, veo mucha agonía y mucha incertidumbre y desazón.
On who's to blame? It's not the IMF, rather the government that took power from him in 1999.
Fue un verdadero desastre. Fue el Waterloo de la política argentina.
And on that staggering foreign debt, more than half built up under his government?
La deuda externa en 1989 era el 90% del Producto Bruto Interno y nosotros la dejamos en el 42% del Producto Bruto Interno.
To pull Latin America's third largest economy out of hyperinflation, Carlos Menem pushed the IMF's free market model to full throttle. It worked. Inflation plummeted and economic growth took off, but only with a withering burst of privatizations.
Argentina sold out all its governmental enterprises almost with no parliamentary discussion.
El primer discurso de Menem, que yo nunca me lo olvido, que como una estúpida lo voté, y él dijo, Argentina, levántate y anda, y yo les prometo la revolución productiva.
Sarah Navarrete says Menem would have privatized the air if he'd found a buyer.
Pero lo que nunca dijo es que además de vender todo el país, la revolución productiva era que a los 35 años vos te quedabas sin trabajo.
The privatization process was the key issue to attract foreign direct investments.
Former President Menem's strategic planning secretary, Professor Jorge Castro, insists the IMF-backed economic liberalization succeeded.
You have to know that during the last 10 years, we attract more than $200 billion of foreign direct investments. And we do it because first we privatize practically all the public enterprises.
Some privatizations worked. No longer do Buenos Aires residents wait 3 years to get a phone connected. And some didn't work, like the sale of Argentina's well-equipped, profitable national airline to Spanish carrier Iberia.
And they paid just peanuts for that, not even $300 million.
Then promptly sold the assets, including all but one of its 28 jets, and flew Aerolíneas to the brink of liquidation.
After 8 years, they say, okay, we are going home because the company is bankrupt. The legacy of the Menem years is something absolutely terrible.
Hubo un par de privatizaciones que no funcionaron muy bien, pero esto no es culpa del presidente de la nación, sino de aquellos entes que se encargaron de controlar el tema de las privatizaciones.
Carlos Menem's great fire sale included Argentina's postal business.
Did your company pay too much money for the post office?
I could say yes. We imagined a different postal market.
In fact, many people thought it was too much when Guillermo Baistrocchi's company offered $80 million a year for 30 years.
Yes, too much.
Problem is, 5 years on, the company hasn't even paid its first instalment, not a single Argentine peso. It took the post office from Menem, and now it's taking the government to court to renegotiate the contract.
No, they will do it.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's necessary to be to have a good service, have a profitable business.
The one who is in this business of the postal service is a good friend of President Menem, and then, you know, this explains a lot of things.
And that leads to a very different diagnosis of Argentina's sickness. One that says IMF policies aren't the problem. Rather, this is a society rotten with graft and greed.
Yo empecé mi lucha luchando contra la corrupción y sabía que tenía que meterme en el barro para pelear con las mafias. Es algo que acepté.
Elisa Cario was once a slim, pretty law lecturer. Supporters now know this devoutly Catholic mother and opposition party leader as Lolita, or La Gorda, the fat lady. But then she seems to be everything politicians haven't been.
No, si me gusta, no lo tomo.
Dresses plainly, talks bluntly, worries about the poor. A picture of several constituents hangs on the apartment wall, a reminder.
Which one person more than any other shoulders blame for what's happened in this country?
Y el jefe de la mafia política, aquel hombre más inescrupuloso que el daño cultural que le ha hecho a la Argentina es enorme, jefe político de la mafia y de las peores formas de la cultura y del robo, se llama Carlos Menem.
Menem. Have you ever committed a corrupt act?
No, en absoluto. Salvo que se demuestre lo contrario. Yo alego mi inocencia.
He never, ever defended himself. He never came to me, Cecilia, don't you ever believe what they're saying. This is like this, they're lying. He stayed as you see him. It's very sad, very, very, very sad. I saw in his eyes a lot of pain because it's very difficult to accept such a hatred.
Hubo una cultura que se llamó pizza con champán.
Auditor General for the administration that followed Carlos Menem, Rafael Bielsa scrutinised the previous government's books.
Fue un gobierno donde los casos de corrupción son incontables.
He says those in power ripped off Argentina repeatedly for their own wealth. Theft of public money on such a scale, commentators called it not so much a democracy as a kleptocracy. One example Bielsa found in the fine print of the Aerolíneas privatisation, a line item, $80 million on negotiations.
O sea, está explicitada el soborno. Entonces, esto demuestra claramente que había una estructura destinada a confundir el bien general o el bien público o las negociaciones públicas con el beneficio particular de los funcionarios.
In fact, Carlos Menem spent his recent honeymoon under house arrest, denying he knew the destination of illegal arms shipments, potentially worth tens of millions for those behind them. Investigations by Buenos Aires anti-corruption lawyer Ricardo Monosans show the then president signed off on the shipments that ultimately went to Ecuador and Croatia, when both were under international arms embargoes.
El presidente de la República firmaba decretos falsos que permitían salida de las armas con destino falso.
Yo me hago responsable de la firma del decreto y no de la tramitación posterior del mismo, porque en eso no puede estar un presidente. Yo no puedo estar en un puerto o en un aeropuerto controlando a dónde van las armas.
Argentina's Supreme Court, most of the judges are Menem appointees, has released the former president, though 3 of his close colleagues remain in prison. There's even murmuring about this scent of corruption around Carlos Menem in far-off Washington. Menem has been particularly close to former US President George Bush. Bush Sr. once called Menem a visionary and is said to have visited him at least 8 times. The link has continued.
Creo que la Argentina no va a salir adelante por los argentinos mismos, por la mentalidad que hay acá.
This belief that a rottenness condemns Argentina to always fail has taken hold among the very professionals the country needs if it's to recover.
Es como un círculo vicioso donde el país lo engaña al ciudadano y el ciudadano engaña al país.
In a country where poverty has driven up crime, piano teacher Debbie Geiler and husband Oscar, who works in computer graphics, have been attacked 4 times. The shock of one armed hold-up ended Debbie's first pregnancy. Now they're planning to emigrate to Canada or Australia, joining tens of thousands trying to get out.
Dentro de nuestros amigos, yo diría que casi el 80% se quiere ir.
Do you love this country?
No, I know. Yo, mi situación es muy distinta a la de Oscar. Para mí no es importante estar acá. Lo único importante es que pierdo los afectos, es lo único importante. No tengo una identificación con mi país, no es un país que me aportó, ni que me ayuda, ni que me defiende, ni que me respeta. Entonces no, a lo mejor lo digo con un poco de dolor porque si me voy dejo los afectos, nada más.
And yet Argentina is your home, isn't it, in a way?
No,
Where is home?
I don't know where is. My home is my husband, my daughter.
This despair suggests many Argentines don't believe the IMF's economic prescription explains their problems. Even the grand-scale corruption may be more symptom than cause. So, where's the leader to deliver the change?
Who will be the next president of Argentina?
Carlos Menem.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Yes, the grape grower who guided Argentina out of crisis through prosperity back into crisis, who sold virtually every government-owned enterprise yet doubled the country's debt, is steadying his ego for a third tilt at the top job next year.
Grandes hombres, y esto no estoy yo calificándome o autocalificándome como un grande hombre, despertamos grandes odios y grandes amores. Y de esto no estuvo exento ni tan siquiera, entre otros, Jesucristo y todos los grandes hombres de la humanidad.
This time his campaign has a royal feel, an enchanting would-be First Lady, and perhaps a baby.
Do you want to be a father again?
Sí, en eso estamos con Cecilia.
Then there's the candidate making a mark as un-Menem-like as she can.
Persona con mejor imagen desde hace bastantes años ya, a pesar de las campañas de destrucción, pero que bueno, en definitiva me bajaron de un 90% que era excesivo a este 50 o 60 que tengo ahora. Es posible.
Si no de lo contrario, yo creo que acá va a haber una guerra civil como nunca se ha visto.
And then there's the millions failed so often by the system before now, and the question of whether they'll give Argentina another chance to make good.